Hey everybody, it's Rob. I'm back. We're going to do another Proving Grounds practice machine. This time we're doing a machine called Nibbles, not to be confused with a hack-the-box machine of the same name. Um, it is a Linux machine and it is rated as intermediate. And again, I didn't think this one was too bad, so the ratings strike again. But regardless, you can see I am connected to Offsec's VPN and I do have Nibbles spun up. So here's the IP address. The first thing we did was we ran an mmap scan. We did service version detection, T4 aggressive on all ports, and 21, 22, 80, 139, 445, and 5437 came back. Now, from what I recall, and I don't remember what is on 80. We're going to find that out here together real quick. Yeah, it was this, which honestly wasn't very helpful. Other than the fact that, it looks like some kind of informational page with a couple of pictures, and, there was nothing here of any kind of significance. Now, if we go back to the mmap scan, you can see I did an aggressive scan, so obviously 21 doesn't allow anonymous FTP access. If it did, it would show us that here. And then we have SMB, well, probably Samba running. But I didn't really mess with that. The thing that stood out to me here was this PostgreSQL. And it's saying it's between version 11.3 and 11.9. So what I thought was I would try to enumerate the database by connecting to it. Now, the default username and password for Postgres is Postgres. So let's try that and see what happens. So to connect to the database, what you would do is you'd use psql. And then the host is the IP address of the server that the database is on. The username is Postgres, and then it's important that you specify the port, which is the one that nmap indicated, which is 5437. So if we hit enter, Postgres for the password, it actually lets us in. And I can't remember, I think it might be \L. Yep. That lists all of the databases, and I'm going to be a spoiler and say those are pretty standard. I believe they're pretty standard. I enumerated them as much as I could, and I couldn't really get anywhere. Didn't seem to be anything in them, right? I did notice that I could connect to Postgres and I could connect to the template 1, but I was having issues with template 0. So that'll come into a little bit of play later when we decide how we're going to exploit this. Okay. So actually what I'm going to do is, I don't think I have it open already. I do. I actually searched for an exploit in Searchsploit for Postgres. And a few of them stood out, but obviously because of the version, I thought this one was probably the most appropriate since we have credentials, Postgres. So that's really what we're going to do. I believe it's 5847. So we can do searchsploit tac-m 5847 to copy that exploit over to our home directory. So that's going to be our next stop. We're going to open up our folder. We're going to look at this code in Mousepad. And there's a lot of arguments. And you have to be pretty specific with all of this stuff. And you will need the database name, which is why I mentioned that I could connect to Postgres and template 1. Now, I tried this exploit with Postgres, and for me it didn't seem to work, but this actually does work well with the template 1 database. And this is basically, it's some kind of copy. It does some kind of copy to the database and copies the command into the table and then copies it out. And when it does that, it actually initiates a reverse shell connection. I'm not really a database expert, but it's right in here. If you look, create table, copy from and then select from. So basically what it's doing is it copies the command into the database, and then it selects the command. And I guess by selecting the command, what it does is it actually executes it. So we're going to see how this works. From what I recall, this worked pretty well. So we're going to get out of here. We're going to, I don't think this needed anything crazy. Yeah, no, that looks, I think that's all okay. So I don't think we're going to have to do any kind of Python in virtual environment. So what we'll do is we'll just open a terminal here. And then here's the second caveat. I had a lot of trouble getting the exploit worked, but it wasn't the exploit's fault. There's been this pattern of machines that I've run into lately where certain ports are blocked. So if you try to do this on certain ports, it doesn't seem to work. We know 80 is allowed because of that website. So this will be one of those ones where you're going to want to do your netcat listener on 80. So I guess that's what we'll do here. We got that one. We got this one. So let me do some arranging here so you can see what's going on. And what we're going to do over here is we're going to do netcat nlvp on 80. And then here's the command that you have to run. And I need to be in the download. No, I don't. Let me see. lsail. Yep, it's up at the top, so we're good here. So let me clear the screen, and I will just copy in this command. And I'll explain the arguments that are required. All right, so we're running the exploit using Python. This is the machine that we're attacking that has the database. We're attacking port 5437, which is the port that the database is on. The database we're going to be using for this exploit is template 1. And this right here is a demonstration to see if we're vulnerable. So I'm going to run this first, and we're going to see if it dumps the etc password folder. And if it does, the etc password file. And if it does, then our next command will include the reverse shell. So let's hit enter and see what happens. And it did. It dumped, you can see right here, it dumped the passwd file. So we're in good shape. So now let's clear the screen, and we'll run the same command, but this time we're going to run it using a netcat listener. So making sure my IP address hasn't changed. So Python, the exploit, the host that we're attacking, the port we're attacking, the database we're attacking, and then this is the command that we want to use to get the reverse shell. So we're just basically offering up bin bash on port 80 using netcat, and then the user and password are postgres, as we know. So let's hit enter and see what happens. And it looks like we have a shell. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the standard Python shell upgrade, which should be in your notes. And it shows you right here that we have a shell. So let's see what's in this folder. I don't see anything there. So let's see if we get into home. There's a folder for Wilson. So let's go into Wilson's home directory. Do an ls, and there's the local.txt, so let's cat local.txt, and there's the user flag. So we'll type history, guarantee it's just mine, yep. We'll do sudo tac-l. All right, it's asking for a password. Let me actually type postgres in here and see what happens. No, so sudo tac-l is not going to work. So let's clear the screen. Okay, can't do that. That's fine. Step 3 is always look for files that have the suid set. And there's been a rash of these lately on these machines. So I'm going to copy this command, and I'm going to paste it in here, and I'll explain it to you. It's actually already running. So you can see find, starting at the root directory, right? We're looking for type file with permissions 4000, which is the set UID on it, and then we're piping anything that's extraneous or doesn't apply to the search to dev null. And I've seen this before right here. Find. That is not normal to have the SUID set on. So our next step is to do this. GTFO bins. We search for find, we go to the SUID section, and then again, you can ignore all the rest of this. All you got to do is copy from find on. And let me make this bigger now. Paste it in there. And we have a root shell. So let's see if we can cd to root. Okay, pwd. We're in root, so we'll do an ls. And then we'll cat the proof.txt. And I'll blur this out. There it is. So this was a pretty easy machine again. I didn't know too much about Postgres, but I was able to muddle my way around through it. So what we did is we ran an mmap scan. We saw there was a Postgres database. We tried to log in using the default credentials, and it let us in. So then we found out that the version was approximately 9.3 to 11.7, something like that. Found us an exploit on SearchPoint that was an authenticated remote code execution. We were able to execute that code, get a shell. We then went through our normal steps, and on step number 3, looking for files with the SUID set, we found the file find with the binary incorrectly set with the set UID. So we were able to exploit that by following GTFO bins advice, and that's that. We have the root flag. So hopefully you found this video useful. Hopefully you learned something. All the links will be in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop them below. I'll be happy to have a chat with you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.